Fighting for freedom and justice can be like trying to knock down a wall. In the US, we believe that freedom is a right and that everyone is created equal. But some groups have had to break down enormous barriers to achieve that freedom and be equal under the law. In this workshop, we'll consider one of the most important questions for every American. How do we protect our rights? We'll see how people fight for equality, and we'll learn what it really means to be equal, regardless of differences like skin color or religion. The whole world watched as President Barack Obama took the oath of office on January 20th, 2009. What made this event so historic and so emotional for so many people? In the past, African Americans did not always enjoy the same opportunities as other citizens. Until about 50 years ago, African Americans did not have equal protection under the law, and kids in school faced racial segregation. By becoming the first black president, Barack Obama knocked down a huge barrier. But it didn't come down overnight. Civil rights activists have been fighting for decades to make sure our laws protect all Americans equally. You'll read interviews with people who were involved in the civil rights movement of the 1960s. You already know some of the heroes of that movement, like Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. But there were thousands of others who organized and protested, risking brutal violence and even death in their struggle to change unfair laws and end discrimination. How far do you think people should go to defend their rights? Discrimination. Unjust behavior toward others based on differences in race, gender, or age. Americans were angry, and many were afraid when the US was attacked by terrorists on September 11, 2001. The terrorists were from Middle Eastern countries, and some people formed unfair prejudices against all Middle Eastern people. You'll read a short story about a Palestinian boy named Sammy, who struggles to be accepted at his new American school right after 9/11. It was tough enough for Sammy to start a new life at a new school, but now he has to prove that he's no different from the other American kids just because of his Middle Eastern background. How do you think people can achieve equality in the face of prejudice and negative stereotypes? Ready to meet an inspiring expert? Ronnie Patrick was born with disabling arthritis, a disease of the joints that made even the simple things in life difficult and painful. But instead of accepting a life of limits, she devoted herself to educating the public about disability. Patrick wants to make sure that disabled people have the same rights and opportunities as everyone else. In her hometown of Chicago, she organizes, leads protest rallies, and trains others to make a difference in the disability rights movement. Take a look. Living with severe arthritis opened Ronnie Patrick's eyes to the unequal treatment that many people with disabilities face. Not content just to sit by, she knew she had to stand up to protect her right to a better life.
I got really tired of being powerless. And there is something really powerful and affirming to be around other people with disability.
Patrick has channeled her power into a life's work, challenging unfair government policies and changing people's attitudes about people with disabilities. How has she done it?
Going into office buildings and Capitol, into lobbying groups, showing them that they're responsible to address disabled people in the way we want to be addressed has to continue for a real change to happen, because right now we don't have what we want.
Sending a message that people with disabilities deserve to live in the community.
The United States has a long history of activism, the work of people who have fought to change social injustices. At the end of this workshop, you can present your own gallery of heroes in a final project, a display of biographical profiles of people you think have made a big difference in moving our society forward. But first, here's what's ahead. Interviews with the people who brought down the barriers. And the questions are from kids. A historic speech by President Obama about racial differences in the US. A group of poems inspiring us to think about democracy and justice. A Palestinian boy's journey to acceptance in America. Gracie, a play about one girl's fight to play varsity soccer on the boys' team. And a letter about a time when one group of Americans lost their rights and their freedom. Time for breaking barriers. So let's start breaking it down in workshop 4. Check out the action. Earthquakes, wildfires, leading people to achieve equality in the face of prejudice. You'll read a magazine article on